Discussing the leading causes of the poverty in America. Introduction. Poverty denotes the state of affairs where there are no ways of managing to pay for crucial human requirements, which include food, clean water, schooling, clothes, physical condition care, and shelter. Relative poverty is dissimilar from the general definition of poverty. It is the being in possession of a short supply of income or wealth, as compared to other individuals within the community, countries, or societies on a global scale. It is important to note that before the Industrial Revolution, approximately 1.7 billion people worldwide lived in poverty. To reduce poverty rates, more resources should be made available to those people who are poorly positioned to afford them, by raising economic growth through increased levels of production. It can be argued that scarcity of resources is caused by countries producing very little and as a result making wealth inadequate. Additionally, poor agricultural technologies lead to food shortages, which together with the high cost of living contribute to poverty. Poverty levels are experienced in schooling, health, shelter, hostility, and drug abuse. Main text. A decade of strong nationwide economic expansion in the 1990s left a large American population struggling behind medium nationwide actions of fiscal health. In this case, despite the extensive ventures in transportation and civic services infrastructures, the country's local expansion patterns are becoming more irregular. Based on this, there is increasing income dissimilarity, and a rising number of societies falling behind the nationwide fiscal standards. Importantly, there are high rates of joblessness, labor participation rates have decreased, and most communities are dependent on the administration. From this, it can be argued that women, children, Black Americans, single-parent folks, and the aged are the victims of poverty in America. Most victims of poverty are found in Los Angeles, California, and Michigan among others, where there are scarce job prospects in communities with a low number of successful means of fiscal improvement. It can be said that capitalism in America has contributed to a greater extent to the increase in poverty levels. The world's richest people like Bill Gates live in America while other people go without food. In this case, most of the middle-class Americans are being sucked into poverty because of capitalism. Based on this, it can be argued that capitalism is a thing of the rich leaving behind the poor. Furthermore, most of the social amenities are provided to the developed areas as a result of capitalism. However, in the capitalist world, there are high chances of employment and good, adequate healthcare programs. On the other hand, since each person is working for their gain, there is stiff competition for the available resources, resulting in those who have fewer resources ending up being poor, since they cannot improve their resources. When this happens, there are high rates of crime, illiteracy, and poor quality health programs. It can also be noted that capitalism has led to corruption, where some have a desire to increase their wealth at the expense of the poor by exploiting them in terms of wages and market prices. In this case, the laborers, who are mostly the blacks, are paid lowly, but the prices of the produced goods are increased, raising the cost of living. On the other hand, since the lower class stays in specific areas in American cities, the social amenities in these areas are poor because of corruption, resulting in deprived health conditions. As the cost of living increases and wages remain low, the low-class Americans are unable to educate their children, which results in child labor and high levels of illiteracy among them. Alternatively, it can be stated that racism, nepotism, and ethnicity have contributed a lot to the high rates of poverty in America. In this case, the blacks are discriminated against and hence are not employed in white-collar jobs. Consequently, they work in jobs that are health hazardous, like in chemical industries and flower plantations, among others. Based on this, a good example is the consequences of Hurricane Katrina, where most African Americans were left to feed themselves in New Orleans. The reason why these people were left without food and drugs is obviously because they belonged to an inferior social group. It can be argued that racism reduces the number of social amenities provided to a given population, making them lag behind. In this case, if education is not sufficiently provided to the blacks, or it is extremely expensive, very few children will get educated, which will result in illiteracy, hence further poverty. As a matter of fact, when the blacks realize that they are discriminated against, they fight the whites by turning into crime within society. Conclusion. it can be argued that capitalism and racism both contribute to poverty increase in America. Based on this, in both cases, the victims are the blacks who end up being the poorest in America. Capitalism causes poverty through economic aspects like lowering wage levels and raising costs of living, while racism causes poverty through the lack of cultural and national integration. From this, it is clear that these two factors have caused increased levels of poverty in America. As a matter of fact, it can be said that racism is the prime cause of poverty since the black population is discriminated against in every aspect of life, making them deprived of national resources and social amenities.